Hey everyone. If you're watching from Egypt, good evening. If you're watching from the US or Canada or pretty much anywhere else, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Karim Sheta and I am the founder of the page Food for Thought. Today's topic is very important. It's one that not a lot of people are familiar with, though it's really important. It plays a major role in our lives. And to talk about this topic, we have two very special and inspiring guests, and they are Maheen Shafiabady and Martin Durak. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maheen. Martin, how are you doing?
Oh, great, Karim. Thanks for the introduction, and hi everybody who's watching.
Thank you so much, guys. So let's dive in because I know you guys have busy schedules. So as I mentioned, the topic is about mindfulness. But before we get to that, we want to know you guys a bit more. We've posted your bio posters a few days ago, but just in case someone hasn't read the posters yet, maybe we can briefly introduce ourselves. So let's start with Maheen. Maheen, let's get to know you more and how you were drawn or how did you come across positive psychology in general?
Okay, so three questions. Who am I? And then myself as a human and my career, and then also positive psychology. As a human, I was born and raised in a rural area of the middle part of the US. I am the daughter of an immigrant, and I have also lived and worked overseas early in my career. When it comes to my career, I help organizations increase their resilience by building effective teams and developing individual leadership skills for sustainable success. I've worked internationally across multiple sectors to build structures for enhanced collaboration. I hold a master's in organization development and a bachelor's in communications education. And of course, I'm a certified positive psychology coach, which is how I know both of these amazing individuals here. And when it comes to positive psychology, I think it's sort of twofold. So what drew me to it is I've always been fascinated by science of the mind. And I had not actually heard of positive psychology when it was recommended to me. And when I learned about it, it really seemed like a perfect fit. Because there's another piece to this, which is having been raised in an environment, no judgment, but in an environment where every situation was reframed as a positive experience was something that I struggled with. And so later, through positive psychology, I learned there's a term for that, which we can certainly talk about if it fits today. But essentially, it was learning about knowing more around positive psychology first, and then applying it to my own life. And through learning all of that, how do I help others also learn the same?
Mm-hmm. That's very sweet and simple introduction. I always actually ask that question about how they were drawn to positive psychology because some people think positive psychology is only for people who coach or train or what. No, actually you can work something completely different and then little by little it sort of finds you. I think for all three of us, positive psychology found us. It wasn't something we actually looked for. So that's amazing. Thank you so much, Mahin. Martin, what about you?
Well, thank you. So a little bit about me. Well, I'm from Czech Republic, living in Canada currently, and how I got interested into positive psychology, it actually goes way back when my mom had some health issues, and it really made me think about what was the cause and why is it all happening, and how can someone who I thought is always happy and healthy actually get sick. And I started to realize there's a lot of psychology involved in that, right? And how we work with our emotions and thoughts and all these kind of things. And I really discovered this whole world about psychology and happiness and why. I always ask why, right? So I ended up going that way and ended up starting our holistic healing center with my girlfriend Michaela, as you guys know. And yeah, I'm a positive psychology and a coach and a transformational speaker at our company, and we organize different events and help people transform their lives and heal and work with their minds and emotions. And as you said, the positive psychology was something what I kind of stumbled by. Yes, exactly. Like I was not looking for it. I just realized, oh, there is actually a way how we can think differently or like more positive, right? And there's this whole thing about this, and it actually has this power to change our life, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, that's how it started for me.
That's awesome. It's very inspiring, and you did we literally met you, like me and Mahin met you like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and you started this company from scratch in a very short amount of time, which is really awesome. So best of luck with that. Yeah.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Perfect. So that was an amazing introduction, guys. Thank you so much. Now let's slowly transition into the theme or the topic of today, which is mindfulness. Now, the thing about mindfulness, at least from my perspective, when I was first introduced to it in the course, it took a bit of time to get like a clear, consistent definition. I felt it includes a lot of things, but there is more or less a general definition. So I'm very intrigued, and I'm sure the viewers are intrigued to find out what you think it is. What's your definition of mindfulness? So, Mahin, in your perspective, what is mindfulness? And let's start with that, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Yeah. Mindfulness, in my own words, is a state of observation or awareness where we allow all five senses to scan the environment both externally as well as internally, and we are non-judgmental as we acknowledge the feelings and sensations that come up in that space.
Mm-hmm. And from that definition, how does it, like in a general sense, how does it introduce benefits into your lives? Why is it important to have that awareness of your surroundings?
Well, there are so many benefits to this, and I think we'll probably get to this later in depth, right?
Yep.
But essentially, an increase in awareness has a multitude of health benefits that have actually been researched. And also, even at work, it can really help you essentially learn to pause and respond versus react.
Okay. That's a pretty interesting way of putting it. All right, awesome. Martin, what about you? What do you think is the meaning of mindfulness, and how is it important in a general sense?
Well, to answer that question, I would like to ask a different question, and that is, what is not mindfulness to me? What is, let's ask, what is not mindfulness, right? How we are not mindful, and that will help us to see what it actually is. So, to me, it means that we are not automatically reacting to our thoughts or emotions, right? It's to me, not being mindful means to not be in this automatic habit or some kind of process we run automatically, right? Or simply, if you are not mindful, you're not aware that you are mindful. If that makes sense, right?
It does.
So what is mindfulness is then like the realization that we are not our thoughts and emotions, we are simply the one who sees it. And because we can like separate ourselves from our thoughts and emotions, we get the power to actually work with them. And that gives you like amazing power and freedom to actually change your internal world, and then changes your external world. And I know we're gonna talk more in depth about this, but essentially, this is what it is to me, to be able to see instead of reacting to it, right?
Yeah. That's actually a very good idea. I might, if I ever do this interview again, I'll ask that. I will ask what is not mindfulness. That's a very intriguing way of putting it. All right. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mahin and Martin. All right, now let's get into more details. So that's the definition, or like the overall title. Let's get into methodologies or methods and techniques. And like one of the main reasons I resorted to you guys is because I was not familiar with mindfulness before I entered the course. Obviously, with Rocco's amazing knowledge, I learned more. But from your video assignments, I was like, this is actually, because all I thought is, okay, mindfulness is meditation and yoga, that's it. But no, actually, it turned out to be a completely different world. So that's why I'm excited for you guys to share all your insights. So, Maheen, what are some of the generally, what are some of the ways that we can practice mindfulness? It's actually a three-part question. So, what are some of the ways we can practice mindfulness? What are some of your own ways, the ones that you apply in your own life, and how have they affected you?
So some general ways to practice mindfulness is sitting and just becoming aware of your environment. This does not necessarily mean meditation. And I think the most important thing here is that you don't need a lot of time to do this. 3 to 5 minutes can be sufficient. So really, if you think about 3 to 5 minutes anywhere in your life, where can you fit that in? Waiting for a meeting to happen, waiting in grocery lines, taking a walk, maybe even in traffic, if you're sitting in your car and you're just waiting for the cars to move forward, all ways that you can practice. And some of those are ways that I practice. So I do meditate, and sometimes meditation actually isn't possible for me because there's too much going on, and maybe I just want to be mindful instead. So it's a switch into the space of observation of what's happening around me, really noticing the sounds, whether there's, a soccer game going on nearby and birds in the trees, and just noticing what's happening internally for me as well. Interestingly, and this is one way I don't practice, it's also highly regarded to do mindful photography, where you're waiting, right, for an animal to show or the sun to appear or disappear and so on. And it's really about being in the moment in a very specific way.
I did like that. I remember actually watching the video assignment, and you mentioned like very interesting aspects. I do know that you enjoy hiking. How do you integrate mindfulness into your hiking?
Oh, I love this question. I could talk about this all day long, but I want to make sure there's room for Martin too.
It's all right. I like to listen to you too.
You're sweet. So for hiking, I do hike with friends, but I also very much appreciate solo hiking. And when I'm hiking on my own, it's really listening to my breath. And so I will, as I'm breathing in, just sort of take in what's around me. And as I'm exhaling, I am letting go of any thoughts or even stories that I might be telling myself. And recognizing those actually has been probably the most powerful piece of mindfulness. Is that story between our own ears can be so powerful. And if we can recognize it and let go of it, we're really able to do what Martin said earlier about, observing and becoming aware, and then deciding how we want to proceed from there.
That's very interesting. I feel that you want to say so much more, but you're giving like time to Martin. But that's an awesome summary. Thank you, Maheen. Martin, what about you? Like, what are some of? I know you have a lot of methods, and I'm sure you use a lot of them in your retreats and everything. So we'd love to hear about them.
Well, so are we talking about what are the methods about how to be more mindful? You're saying? Or
yes. So like generally, and what are some of the techniques that you use on a personal level?
Mm-hmm. So for sure, like Maheen already said, the meditation, which is obviously a great way how to get more mindful, because it literally puts us in that seat of that observer, right? And that's essentially what it means to be mindful. Just an interesting thought came to my mind right now. How would you guys explain the difference between being in the flow and being like mindful? Because let's say, right? Because Maheen said that when you are doing the photography, you are almost like in the flow because you really enjoy it. You forget forget about time going, right? And it could be several hours, and you found out you had many pictures, and you don't know where the time went. So, were you being mindful, or were you being in the flow? This is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah, because I struggled with this difference when we were doing the course. It's like, but there is a very slight difference between them. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Mahin, yeah. Yeah, if you
Yeah,
want to
so
answer.
it's just an interesting question. I just came to my mind. I'm like, maybe we can talk about that too. But
Sure.
yeah, definitely meditation is great. And what I do, like, how do I teach people how to get more mindful or implement mindfulness or the practices to be more mindful in their life? Is because what I found a lot of people kind of struggle to, when they say, okay, from tomorrow I will meditate every day for an hour. It's just really not possible because that's just not how it works. We all know that, right? So
Yep.
I think the best way is to kind of start really small, something like Mahin was saying, right? Where I call it, we do these little checks with ourselves, where you check where you are, how you feel, and where you feel it in your body. And for me, what helped me the most was actually setting a little reminders on my phone, because that's a device that we always use, right? And you always have it, and if it makes a noise, you look at it. And this is a
Yeah.
great way because you can connect this kind of habit of pulling out the phone whenever it makes a noise with creating a mindfulness habit, if you will, right? Which is kind of a paradox because being mindful is not being in a habit, right? But maybe if you have a habit of being mindful.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, I don't want to make it too long too. I could talk about this for a long time too because this is so interesting. But yeah, like making reminders and then doing these little checks, and then from there we can take it to be longer and longer, like breaks, right? And doing longer checks with ourselves, and then maybe going into meditation for a few minutes, and that's what I would recommend.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually agree with the habit of mindfulness because, but anyways, like you said, I don't want to get into it because it will lead to a completely different discussion. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I do have one quick follow-up question. So, like, some people might think, since also this is part of your specialty as well as Maheen's, is like when you think mindfulness, does that mean only meditation and yoga and all those cliche or typical things, or like or let me rephrase the question another way. Why is yoga categorized under mindfulness? That's my question. Because I think people who don't know what mindfulness is, like I think they'll just relate it to meditation and yoga, but I want people to know that it's actually completely different than that. So yeah, so you can finish your statement, Martin, about the yoga, and then we'll go to Maheen with the same question.
Okay, sounds good. Well, this is a really good question. I like where you're coming from. Yeah, for sure. I've seen it that people tend to think that meditation is really, or sorry, mindfulness is really connected with just meditation, right? And these kind of things. But I believe it's not a matter of being at work or what kind of activity you're doing. It's really about being aware, like throughout the day, that you can be mindful all the time during any activity, because this is where you get the power to create the person you want to really be and to create the experiences you really want to have if you are mindful, right? Instead of being really automatically running some let's say stories from the past, right? And things like this, right? So I believe it's a matter of like on if we could get it to the best all the time being mindful.
Exactly. That's very true. I love that answer. Maheen, I know you also practice like meditation and yoga and other techniques. What's the difference, or why is it categorized like that?
Yeah, well, I love what Martin said already, and I distinguish between the two in that. Actually, let me say it this way: when you're doing yoga, you can also be mindful, but you could do yoga and not be mindful. Mindfulness is about a state of awareness, a state of observation. You're almost sort of hovering and watching yourself interact with the environment around you, or not interact, as it were. Whereas if you're not being mindful while you're doing yoga, then you're paying attention maybe to getting it right, hitting the pose exactly right, breathing in and out exactly when the instructor is telling you to, and so on. So you're not necessarily paying attention to what's happening internally in that case, and that would not be mindful.
Exactly. You'd be contradicting the purpose of mindfulness. Perfect. All right. So in case someone has just logged in to view us, so to sum up what Maheen and Martin have so eloquently discussed or mentioned, basically mindfulness is a state of awareness, and the purpose basically is for your internal health, not for anything, not for anybody else, and that it has a lot of techniques which can be as simple as washing a dish, walking, taking a photo, and so forth. All right, perfect. Now, this is sort of, we talked about the practical aspect, but for everything, there are challenges, there are obstacles to everything. I personally had, like, when I was trying out something called, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, it's called, I think it was mindful visualization. You like just close your eyes and visualize something and so on. It took me a lot of willpower to actually concentrate for a full 2-3 minutes, and a lot of practice to actually get there. So my question is, when you face these small barriers or obstacles, or when you feel like you want to give up, it's too much pressure, what do you do to motivate yourself, or basically to not give up? So Maheen, the floor is yours, and then we'll go to Martin.
Okay. So speaking from a very personal place, my own challenge was actually something I mentioned a moment ago in hiking, right, where I noticed stories I would tell myself. And so my personal challenge was actually the story I was telling myself around what it would be to meditate correctly. And so for years, like all caps, years, I tried to meditate and I couldn't do it because I was judging myself. I just didn't know that's what I was doing. So I found ways around that, which was recognizing through the course that we all took together that I could just do it for a couple of minutes at a time. And that would be the perfect start to building this practice for myself. And so it was, 3 to 5 minutes a day. And I found then other resources that would help support what I needed, which was to sort of set up a schedule of the guided meditations that I wanted to hear every morning. And so I didn't have to, it took out the need to have to think about what I would be doing in the morning. Instead, I would just wake up, see the chosen meditation, hit play, and sit for 3 to 5 or maybe 10 minutes as I got more practiced. And so it was recognizing also that it's a muscle that we have to, that as I practiced it, it became stronger and easier and enjoyable. And now I really can't live without it. Did I answer all your questions? I feel like there were several.
No, you did. No, I was actually just gonna say, like, you. I was hoping that you'd mention that because I remember watching your video. You talked about how it's become a part of your lifestyle. I hope I can reach that stage like you and Martin. But yeah, I'm happy that you brought it up. So awesome. Thank you, Maheen. Martin, what about you? What are some of your tips in order to overcome that difficulty?
Right. So Maheen described it really nicely, of course, that thinking about how to get it right and all these kind of thoughts, and is definitely a way how we can make it difficult for us. But for me, I was thinking about it actually a few days ago, and it seems that a lot of people struggle with like meditation, and that's not because of the nature of meditation, but because of their mindset about it. I think it's because how you actually going to sit down, like how you are getting yourself into it, with what intention, and what do you expect from it. If your mindset is, okay, I'm gonna sit here for 15 minutes so I can say I meditated, that's you know what I mean, that's not really of course, after a few minutes, you'll be like, what am I doing here? You know, this is boring or whatever it is, right? But to me, it's almost like it's almost like doing this mental cleanup or kind of like entering your mental psychic room where you get to see what's actually happening there, right? Because it's like going in your mind and being like, okay, so I'm running these stories, I'm thinking these things, or I'm struggling with that, or I'm feeling this way and that way, and then you can kind of have fun with it and be like, oh my god, there's all this kind of stuff happening here. I didn't even know it's happening there. Maybe I don't want it there, or maybe I want this in there, right? And so it's like this, like a mental laboratory. You're almost like this mind architect, where you get to play with your right blocks of your mind or whatever it is, and you can sit down with this kind of intention and mindset. You can sit for hours. I can meditate for a very long time because it's really, you call for positive emotions and then you sit there and feeling really those positive emotions in your whole body, right? And so my point, I guess, is it's about the mindset, or how you put yourself into it at the beginning.
Yeah. I love that. I love also your reference to the mind. You guys have been mentioning a lot of terms that I'm gonna steal today, just so you guys know. So like I love this. I feel I'm the student here, not the founder of the page. So I love the mind. My friend once said something. Mahmoud, if you're watching, hi. He said something really awesome. He said, especially for those who overthink, don't let your thoughts live rent free. So like, don't let like any negative emotions like just live there for no reason. Like, replace them with positive emotions that are worth it. So just when you were saying mind architecture, it was sort of a little flashback. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Okay, perfect. Now, you guys mentioned a lot of techniques that we can do on a personal level. So there might be someone literally right now watching from work on his desk, and he'll be like, oh, so I have to wait until I get back home to apply mindfulness. So that doesn't help me in any way. But actually, it's the contrary. It's the opposite. You can apply it anywhere. So let's get to know some of the ways you could do it on an organizational level. So Mahin, what do you think? What are some of the ways you can do it on an organizational level? And out of curiosity, can it be like taught in a workshop or something? Like, can it be taught to a group, or is it always an individual thing? Yeah.
Oh, I love these questions. And also, I just have to say, I could listen to the two of you talk all day long. I love this.
You're so sweet.
Same here.
Same here.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you both.
Me too.
So mindfulness is something that absolutely can be practiced at work. I mentioned it maybe early on in our conversation here, but really, any time that you're waiting for something, you can recognize that you have just a few moments to sit and scan the environment, right? Again, opening up your senses to, like Martin said, like the thoughts that are happening, and whether you want to keep those around or not, or kick them to the curb. It's, that can happen in a moment. So maybe you're waiting for a meeting to happen. I would frequently do that actually at work. I would go in 5 minutes early, or even 10 minutes, and sit for 5 until people started joining, and then I would speak with them. But it allowed me to really be present, and so anyone can do that. I would also take walks. I would take walking breaks on my own, where I would leave the building and maybe just walk around the block if I only had 10 minutes, and breathe and notice the birds and the flowers and the sun and the people about. And to your last question, yes, absolutely, it can be taught in a workshop. And in fact, I don't know if we'll get deep into this, and I'm certainly not an expert here, but there are many different therapeutic tools. And one of those is by John Kabat-Zinn, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who teaches, let's see if I get it right, it's MBSR. Do you remember what that stands for?
It's, I think it was like cognitive something. So mindfulness-based cognitive something. I can't remember
Yes,
that.
stress reduction. Yes, mindfulness
Yeah.
stress reduction. Yes, go team.
We got
That's an 8-week course that he teaches, but that's for if you have the time to invest in 8 weeks, right? Regardless, I think you can sit and listen to someone around what we're talking about now, right? Invest an hour, invest even 20 minutes to understand a couple of ways to just become aware of your body and the thoughts that are swirling around.
That's awesome. The funny thing is, like, the MBCR was like on my agenda, and I'm like, okay, I'll study it next week just for the post. So I'm so happy you brought it right now. And you said something that I think is really appealing, and it's important to mindfulness. You talked about walking and like admiring the view and everything. So I do have a question about that. Is changing the scenery, from your perspective, is it more effective than just sitting in your spot and applying mindfulness, or should you go out and like see, like, sort of admire your surroundings?
Oh, I love this question because the interesting piece is my office at that time didn't have a window.
Oh, wow.
So yes, in that very specific case, it did. But the reality is, no, you don't actually need to change your spot. Like, for example, if you're waiting in line, you don't want to leave the line, right? The point of waiting in line is to get the next person to get what you're there for. So it's really about noticing what's happening around you, right? So the other day I was waiting in line to purchase something from the pharmacy. And of course, in COVID times, the lines are longer. And I just decided I would look at people's shoes. I would listen to the kids making jokes, the parents feeling frustrated, and all of the noises and everything that was happening around me. And in that way, I was able to just center and let the time pass.
So for anyone watching, if you've ever been standing, like literally like the example that Mahin said, if you're standing in a line and you sort of lose yourself in your thoughts and look at things and study them, that's actually not a bad thing. You're not lacking focus. You're actually being mindful. So it's actually a benefit, not a negative thing. Thank you so much, Mahin. All right, Martin. So what do you think? What do you think are sort of like on an organizational level? What are some of the techniques?
Well, as I said at the beginning, I'm not too involved into the business environment, right? So I can't really answer how much, what would be the greatest techniques there. But I could imagine, as with any kind of environment, we could practice the same things and mindfulness in any setting, as we said, right? So it is not really about what environment we are in. It's really about, like, I think that the biggest challenge is to actually remember to be mindful, right? You really think about it. So as Mahin said about the standing in the line, it's like if you're in a traffic driving, instead of getting mad about the traffic, we could be thinking about 3 things we have accomplished today, or about what are we grateful for today, right? Or things like that. And what just happened in that moment, we became mindful to the fact that we are being upset about the traffic, and we switched it to something else, right? And then, so that could apply in any environment, even business. Let's say we are trying to make a deal with a partner, right? And we could stop ourselves and be like, and change what we are trying to think, right? And maybe change the whole course of the whole negotiation or presentation. We can stop the negative talk when we're doing a presentation or something like that, right? And connect with people on a different level. So that would be my little bit about that. Yeah, Maheen?
Yeah, Karim, I would love to respond to Martin.
Please.
So, yeah, thank you. So, Martin, I love what you said, and I want to emphasize something like what your organization teaches, right? Helping people learn mindfulness and awareness and all of these beautiful personal practices matter so much in the workplace, because in the end, we are all humans in the workplace. right? And so regardless of your own experience in the business world or not, anyone can bring themselves into the workspace and not only, again, respond versus react on their own accord, but also those ripple effects matter in organizations, right? We impact one another in every interaction that we have. So I just love the work that you're doing and how that has a ripple effect for those who are taking this into the office. Yeah. And then the other piece that I love that you talked about was in traffic, when we're being mindful and we're noticing what's happening around us. You also brought up like grateful practices, which reminded me of the fact that when we're being mindful, we can also help ourselves go deeper by thinking about, like, for example, the car that you're in. What did it take to get this car, right? Were there others involved that maybe helped you along the way? Who put the car together? Where was it purchased? All of those, again, ripple effects and how that helps us find gratefulness in our lives just by taking those moments.
Thank you so much for emphasizing on that, Maheen. And those were actually like very similar to the two comments I was just going to elaborate. So thank you so much for that. No, this is perfect. Like you, as Maheen said, like your company represents that you can teach mindfulness to a group, and that doesn't have to be just work or home. It can be in the car. So this is more than perfect. While you guys were talking, you actually like inspired me to ask one last question. I know you guys have a long day ahead, but what if someone is watching now? So I feel very inspired when I listen to you guys, obviously, and I mentioned that at the beginning. But there are some people who are, a bit skeptical, cynical. Like this is like they might feel what we're saying is too utopian or too ideal. Like I don't even have time to keep thinking. What do you mean being aware of what? Just these types of thoughts. So what would you say to that person, whoever he or she may be? And sort of to influence them in another direction. So, Maheen, what do you think? And then we'll go to Martin.
I would say it's a very personal practice, and I would ask, what are the obstacles? And what do you find is holding you back? And also, what's your vision for yourself? So if your vision for yourself is to be a little happier or find some kind of way to be more grateful or shift the thoughts in your mind, then this is something to consider. And we have not touched at all on any of the amazing research around this topic. There is so much research. I mean, it is actually a fairly new topic. It hasn't been as deeply researched as, say, psychology as a whole. But there's so much out there that I could go into, and I don't know if we have time. Yeah, I mean, it's there are health benefits that have been highly emphasized, that they've found even things like anxiety and regulation of the stress hormone and improvement of like skin diseases happen from those who practice mindfulness. So there's also these amazing health benefits, that physical health benefits that can come from this, and even long-term living is another thing that was found, I think, in one of Dr. Ellen Langer's research studies.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because this week, like, the posts will be about those things. So there will be some general posts, but there will be like scientific things about some of the tests that they went through and on all that. So I'm so happy that you transitioned to that critical point. Perfect. So that's like the scientific or academic aspect. Martin, what advice would you give to that person, or a tip to sort of influence his decision or opinion?
Yeah. So if someone kind of has this view of mindfulness, I would probably ask them, what is the exactly, like as Mahin said, what is your blocks in your life? What is standing in your way of where you want to get? And this is usually the big why, right? Is why you can see that to get where you need to get, you really have to do certain things. You have to come over certain challenges and develop new skills. And really, to do that, we first have to get mindful, right? It's like, that this, when you said a person would ask, why should I even care to do that? It's because, well, if you really care or want to change things in life, what are like not serving you anymore, or let's say someone is getting always angry, right? Or someone has a really bad relationship with their dad, or any kind of examples. First, to actually tackle the problem, you have to get mindful, right? It's like, so we first have to actually stop and start like focusing of what's happening around us and what's happening inside of us. So that would be my answer to like, why should you care? Because this is really the key to actually transform your life for better and be happier, right? If you really think about it. And as Mahin said, there is a lot of research behind it, and especially now when we live in this like really go and very fast lifestyle all the time. I don't know if you guys know, but you know how the nervous system is affected by that when we stay constantly in the fight or flight response. I don't know if the viewers are aware of that, but what is really happening is that we are constantly being on the edge, if I say it in my words like that, and we forget to like calm down and turn off. Let's say, like, to take that time off of the push. And there's a lot of research again behind that if we are constantly on the edge, that's like the perfect environment for disease, perfect environment for illness, or lowers your immune system and so on. So this would be kind of my answer to that kind of person. There's a lot behind it, and it is definitely worth to care.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I should have probably done this interview like over 2 parts. Now that as we were talking, I'm like, this is actually like, I think we could go on and on like this for hours, because this is really awesome. But I love, Martin, what you said about like the fact that so mindfulness is not really a luxury or an optional thing. It's actually a necessity for our health and our well-being and happiness overall.
Exactly.
So, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree. Okay, guys, it's really painful to me to have to come to the end of the interview, but before I like ask you guys for the final message and so on, I just want to thank you guys sincerely. I think I am 100% sure that a lot of people will benefit from what you said today, and will try, like, as soon as people are more aware about the concept of mindfulness, I'm sure we can schedule another interview with more details, more in depth, because it's a big topic. And I personally enjoyed today, and also learned a lot of things that I already knew and things that are completely new to me. So thank you so much for this. So now let's transition to the last question of the day, and that is, what is one final message you'd like to leave to our viewers? And I'm sure a lot of people will try or want to follow you after the session is over. So if you have any pages or things, and for those watching, if you check the bio posters of our speakers, the last post before this interview, all the links are available, and we'll also include them in the description. So Maheen, go ahead.
Okay. So final thoughts. Well, first of all, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I would love to come back and talk with you more, both of you. Final thoughts, I think I really would say, ask yourself, what is the life that you want to live? And if you think that mindfulness will help you, I think that it's an amazing practice that can easily be layered into things you already do. So it's not an actual new thing to add. And there are many of us available to support you as you begin to do that. And I'll leave that there.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then I don't think I need to give my contact information because you've shared it already. Is that right?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So it's in the bio, and you can just say the name of the website just in case, like, but it's already in the bio poster. But in case someone is too lazy to go check the poster, maybe you can see it now.
Sure. So for any of those who may have missed it, my website is actually my name here, mahin.info. And you can find my LinkedIn there, as well as my YouTube channel and so on.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Mahin. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So yeah, first of all, I would like to say thank you, Karim. Thank you, Maheen. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for organizing everything. I'm sure that the viewers will find a lot of value here. And yeah, thank you again. And what would be my final message? Well, I guess we're talking about mindfulness, right? And it's such a huge thing and topic, and it really has great power in our lives. So I really want to encourage you guys who are watching to really give it a try, and try some of these things that we said here. And really, it has the power to get you where you need to get in your life, or at least improve every area of your life. If you put mindfulness in every area of your life, you will just thrive there. It's because, as I said at the beginning, it will give you the power to create the experience you actually want, right? Rather than fight with the fact that it is not the way you want. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
my point here is, I guess, really give it a try. It's worth it, and there's a lot to take from that for sure.
Definitely. And how can people follow
Yes.
you? Yeah,
I forgot about that. So actually, I have a YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube under my name, Martin Durak. Then, as I mentioned, we have our holistic healing center. So you can find our website. That's www.millimarcenter.com. And you can find everything around us and about our events, and also on Facebook. And we even have Instagram. So wherever you put Millimar Center, you will find us on Facebook, on our website, and everywhere. So
awesome.
check us
out. I'm sure they will. So, and if anyone's watching, if you have any questions, because I know some of the viewers will be watching at different times because of the time zones, but if you have any questions, just paste them in the comment in the video, and I'll be sure to convey them to Maheen and Martin for them to answer at their earliest convenience. We actually do have like a big thank you from Amira. So she says,
Hi, Amira.
Hi, Amira, if you're watching. She's saying thank you. So at the beginning of the interview, she said hello and glad to watch you. And at the end, she said thank you very much with a bunch of emojis. So thank you, Amira, so much. All right, awesome. Thank you, Maheen and Martin, so much again. Have an amazing day. And in Egypt, we're actually ending the weekend, but I think we're just starting. So enjoy. And we're not envious at all. And we'll see you guys, I'm sure, in another interview in the near future. Thank you so much. You guys.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.